flirting with the subject of any worthwhile philosophy. You know, the things we don't understand, the things we fear. As if we don't, then if you don't go out and find the beast, sooner or later the beast will come and find you.
Hello, thanks for clicking on RBND Reviews. My name is Rob, and I'm going to be reviewing Dread. It's probably going to be the last horror movie I review this year. Dread is an independent horror film about a Stephen, who is a film student, who meets an ethics classmate named Quaid. He experiences some frightening nightmares since the death of his parents when he was 6 years old. One day, Quaid suggests that the two of them join forces on a class project together in which they will film a documentary study on people's fears.
So you've heard of Kinsey, right?
Yeah. The guy who did the sex studies?
Yeah. What if we did a fear study? Compile a survey on people's fears and what causes them.
Not long after the project starts, Stephen and his editor friend Cheryl kind of notice some very strange and sinister things in Quaid's behavior. Dread is based on a short story by Clive Barker, and this movie was recommended to me by somebody on a subscriber to this channel, so I decided to go ahead and give it a try. During the film, I kept asking myself whether horror films are much scarier when things are left to the imagination, or whether it is necessary to show the horror action being carried out. For example, there's a very graphic scene where somebody is getting, slashed in the head with an axe, and personally, I think it would have worked better if it wasn't shown, like if it was left to our imagination, like have the victim move a little bit out of camera range, then have the murderer come behind and then whack it, and you don't actually see the person getting whacked with an axe. You kind of, because I think it would work just to maybe be a little bit better, because it could still give you a jolt, but instead we do get to see the action being done, and it felt like it didn't quite work. So the jump scares in this movie I didn't think worked, but I think that if the movie had been in the right hands, I think perhaps it could have been an even more creepier film. But for the most part, Dread does deliver on mood and some of the photography, as well as the very good locations. They go very well with this picture. The acting is adequate, but anything great. I think Quaid is supposed to have something, unusual about him, but I did not really see that in his performance for the most part. If I saw something unusual about Quaid, it was usually something like the lighting, like when he comes out of the shadows, or perhaps some of his actions. I wanted to be afraid of Quaid, but I wasn't. And I mean, he just didn't have an eerie presence about him. Stephen, I thought was a little bit better. He did look like some people whom I knew when I was studying in college, and I think the better acting comes from the character Cheryl. For example, take a look at this scene, where she's being interviewed for the documentary.
By the time he'd get home, my mom would always be asleep. I'd lay there on my pillow and listen to the sound of his boots walk to my bedroom door. The way his flesh smelled when he'd come home from work. This warm blood on the grass. Cold fat in the freezers. I can hardly stand to look at a piece of meat now. But I don't think about eating it.
Now, did you notice how the actor playing Cheryl looks like she is, pausing, and it looks like that she is, trying to recall information? The acting there that was very good acting, but the actor playing Quaid, for the most part, looks like he's just reciting, the dialogue. Story-wise, I found the aspect of the study of people's fears to be very, very fascinating. I think it was very interesting how people seem to forget that there's a camera shooting there with them, and how they open up. When I was in college, I worked on a lot of documentary films, and it was kind of interesting to see that happen. They forget the camera's there, and they start revealing information I don't know if they would have revealed otherwise. I thought that story was much more interesting than Quaid's story. For a while, it seemed to be the focus of the film. There's times when someone from Quaid thinks he sees somebody from his past come, and he gets a little bit scared and all, but for a while it becomes the focus of the film, and then it sort of just disappears. It was like there were two films, and the film editor was trying to cut the two of them together. I do think Dread did a good job with showing the differences in the characters of Stephen and Quaid. Like the actions that they do. Like Stephen, for example, he just sees this as just a class project, nothing more, and Quaid, on the other hand, thinks that this study is much, much more than that. He takes it a little bit more seriously. Dread, I think, is a very decent psychological horror film with some parts that work well and others that don't. So I give Dread a mixed review. So there you go, that's my review of the movie Dread, and if you have seen it, leave your comments or go ahead and leave comments about this video. I greatly appreciate it, and thank you for watching.